While we're waiting for Shazam Fury of the Gods, we decided to read all the comics as homework, and there's an interesting moment in the first issue of the new Champion of Shazam. Mary Marvel, the new Shazam, correctly points out a glaring issue with how women are portrayed in movies. So in this video, let's take a look at how female characters are too often defined by the men around them. Let's dive in. First up, even Mary agrees that it's hurting her life. Shazam's new champion is a formidable superhero. She's got super strength, can fly, and shoots lightning from her hands. But she is Shazam's champion. That is, her powers stem from a 3,000-year-old wizard. The comic is gorgeously illustrated by Evan Doc Shaner and written by Josie Campbell. And if Campbell's name sounds familiar, then you'll remember her writing for She-Ra and the Princess of Power and the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. So a woman writing a female character sounds great, right? That means that the character won't have to deal with the problems female characters usually do when it comes to representation on screen or in comic books. But sadly, even Josie's backed into a corner when writing Mary Marvel. In the first issue, she's finally old enough to attend college, and besides being a badass superhero and spending time with her adoptive family, she wants to define herself. That is, she wants her own identity that isn't affected by anyone else's description of her in the past. She even points this out in the comic, saying that people have always defined her in relation to others. Her birth parents, her foster parents, her brothers and sisters, including Billy. She's always been defined in relation to all of them. But in the first issue, all she wants to be is Mary, the college student. Who's Mary? What's her 5-year plan? And what's she having for dinner? She wants to figure these questions out, and she should be allowed to do so. But then there's Shazam, and the powers she derives from him. So her powers come from Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, and Achilles. And they're all male benefactors rather than female. In 2007's Countdown to Final Crisis, Black Adam gives her his powers. And yes, we know that he wasn't sharing his powers with anyone else at the time, and also had the powers of his dead wife Isis, so that made Mary even more powerful. And you could also argue that since Isis was a female god, then Mary derived her powers from her more, right? Well, no. The rest of Adam's powers still came from Shu, Hiru, Aman, Zehuti, Aten, and Mehen. All of them are male Egyptian deities. Besides, even if all of them were described as female gods in the comics, Mary would have still gotten her powers from Black Adam. Now, we're not saying that there aren't strong women in movies and shows. Au contraire, there's been a lot of progress in recent years. Thor Ragnarok had Valkyrie, a headstrong, no-nonsense badass who was dealing with her own demons, and her identity didn't rely on Thor being the god of thunder. And in the DCEU, there's Wonder Woman. Steve's the love of her life, and when he's reincarnated in some other dude's body, her life still goes on. She's still doing her own thing and has her own identity. Steve's existence doesn't change hers, and it only adds to her life. And outside Marvel and DC, Charlize Theron's character, the Old Guard, and Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 are great examples of strong female characters. They're not defined by the men who surround them and have their own opinions and motivations to move the plot forward. Interestingly, if you go back to Mary Marvel's original publisher, Fawcett Comics, and her pre-1985 version from DC, her powers were granted by different gods. Instead of male gods who empower Billy, Mary had Selene, Hippolyta, Artemis, Zephyrus, Aphrodite, and Minerva. So the same set of Shazam powers except female benefactors. Wouldn't it be cool if the DCEU included this bit of lore into her story arc? And finally, it's a work in progress. And there's a lot of work ahead for Hollywood writers, especially male ones. You know the term, written by a woman, when a male character is warm, respectful, and not afraid of femininity. It trended on TikTok for a while, but it's not untrue. The Priest from Fleabag, Lori in Little Women, Darcy from Pride and Prejudice. The list is endless, but the characters are amazing, especially the Priest. So, there should be more female writers writing both male and female characters for the next generation of kids who grow up watching them. And comic book characters like Gwen Stacy, Lois Lane, and other Silver and Golden Age female characters didn't get their own independence until much later in the comic runs. And even then, their lives revolved around Spider-Man or Superman. Two other examples of female characters that were butchered by their movie franchises are Ginny Weasley and Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter movies. Hermione in the first few movies was the one with all the answers. She was a certified badass with her own motivations and feats, and Ginny on the other hand was athletic, funny, and charming. The movies took those characters' traits and just made their lives revolve around the boys in their lives. And to quote our favorite bad-mouthed menace, Deadpool, that's just lazy writing. While there's been a lot of work done to undo the stigma, there's still a lot more to be done. Movies like Terminator 2, a atomic blonde and the old guard are the outliers, not the norm. And Hollywood needs to work hard on making characters like Wonder Woman, Miss Marvel, Sarah Connor, and Andromache of Scythia. Before we sign off, there are some juicy developments in the DCEU that you need to know about. First, the new Warner Bros. CEO says that they can make the DCEU even better. So, Batgirl's unfortunately canceled and won't be seeing the light of day. That really sucks because the story was written by a woman, you know? But while the announcement shocked fans, the new CEO, David Zaslav, promises that Black Adam, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and The Flash are not on the chopping block. What's more, he even promised that the upcoming theatrical releases are going to be better when fans get to see them. We're not sure what better means, but we're certainly going to be on guard, especially because we've been duped by Ubisoft in the past. Plus, there's another reason we'll get into later. But you know what's weird? Batgirl was canceled due to a reported tax write-off, and they were implementing cost-cutting measures. They're also focusing on more theatrical releases, and the CEO said that Batgirl didn't match their intentions moving forward. He claimed that since the movie was only released on HBO Max, it wasn't as huge to release in theaters, but it was also too big for the small screen. But if you have a show like Game of Thrones on HBO, then why not Batgirl? We're not saying the Black Adam and the rest of the DCEU movies are bad, not at all. It's just that a lot of us were hoping we'd be getting a trailer for Batgirl, and instead found out that it's dead. But hey, at least we get Michael Keaton back in The Flash, right? Next, Batgirl test screenings had similar test scores to Shazam 2, so when movies are about to be released, they usually get screened in advance for test audiences. It helps figure out issues with the screenplay and pacing, and an early version of Batgirl, with temporary VFX and music, got a score in the low 60s with test audiences. This isn't bad at all, in our opinion. A low 60 score means that it needs a bit of work, and you're done. But the thing is, Shazam Fury of the Gods scored in the low 60s too, and it's got a December release date, right before Christmas. So, you know, it's a tad disappointing that a lot of hard work is going to waste. And guess which other movie Batgirl scored similarly to? Black Adam. Yep, both Fury of the Gods and Black Adam were in the low 60s. And this begs the question, why cancel Batgirl? Again, a tax write-off is the term that's thrown about in most articles. The director's cut of Adam had the same scores as Batgirl, but since it's a theatrical release that's bound to earn a lot more money than something on HBO Max, Warner Bros. Is going ahead with it. In terms of business, it makes sense. The studio spent hundreds of millions on marketing alone, and Dwayne's doing his best to market it on Instagram, so the low 60 scores should be worrying, right? Well, we hope not. But get this, even an R-rated horror like It scored poorly in early screenings, and It went on to become the 5th highest grossing R-rated film in history. So no, a low score isn't indicative of how the movie or TV show's gonna perform. But again, Warner Bros. Has to make these decisions in order to rake in as much revenue as possible. If Batgirl wasn't gonna make a lot of money, well, it's axed. And sadly, there's nothing we can do about it right now, unless we all pitch in for a release the Adil and Bilal cut. And that's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching. So what do you think of female rep in Hollywood? Tell us down in the comments, and as always, be sure to give us a huge thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more awesome content. We'll see you in the next one.